How do you discern between your inner voice and your inner critic? This is the first challenge we encounter when we explore how our inner guidance communicates with us. Our intuition is not a rational input, but something that happens outside of the comfort zone set by our egoic mind. That comfort zone is not necessarily comfortable as much as it's just familiar to us. So a good way to distinguish between our inner guidance and our mental chatter is to observe how we feel. If your inner voice is speaking in a fearful or anxious way, you can bet is the ego. The ego usually uses control tactics to get what it needs. It feeds off of need. So if your inner voice sounds like criticism, judgment, or discouragement, if it has a sense of urgency and frames your decision from a place of scarcity, insecurity, or lack, this communication is not your inner guidance. Intuition doesn't come from a place of fear. Intuition is about abundance, confidence, and fulfillment. Your inner guidance is devoid of any emotional attachments and fears. It has a transcendental peace to it. Its tone is generally neutral, and it will never interfere with your free will. It feeds off of desire, lives in the present moment, and waits patiently for your intention so it can be made manifest into physical reality. There are 5 stages you can use to frame how your inner guidance communicates with you. The first one is to stop and be present. Reserve 10 minutes a day to get out of your head and drop into your body. Set the intention to build awareness around your somatic responses, how your body feels. You are remembering how to communicate with yourself. Your attention is the gateway to your personal power, and it's about directing your energy away from the masculine yang or the doing by tuning into the being or feminine yin. Be here now. You can learn more about grounding yourself in the present moment with our video on this topic and use our body scan technique provided in the description. The second stage is to listen. Your ego needs an audience, so when you instead choose to give your attention to the sensations in your body, your mind's chatter has no other source of energy, so it has to slow down. This creates space for you to notice the tension you are holding on the inhale and let go of that tension on your exhale. Observe your breath inflating your belly, expanding your lungs, and being released through your mouth. Imagine your heart as a lotus flower, blooming with each exhale, opening your heart as a portal to infinite silence and stillness. Now it's time for the third stage, and that is to ask for guidance. Call out the knowledge that is beyond your conscious awareness and be open to receiving it without judgments or conditions. This knowledge can show up in many forms, and it's not always immediate because sometimes our expectations get in the way. This is why our best ideas come when we're zoning out in the shower. So in this stage, your focus should be solely on the asking part. Be clear about what you want and be open to accept whatever comes. Acceptance is the challenge in the fourth stage, which is to trust. Trust what you receive, trust yourself. It's not always the most obvious or more convenient choice. It may not be the best decision for someone else. It may challenge how you see yourself or how others see you. So it's important that you be okay with what is. Many people are still not ready for this step because we're not ready to take responsibility for the consequences of our choices. It's much easier to give our power away and then complain or blame others for what happens in our lives. But all we're doing is abandoning ourselves. Sometimes we are responsible for something not because we're to blame, but because we are the only ones that can change it. Our inner authority reflects how much we're in touch with ourselves, our needs, our desires, passions, boundaries, challenges, and our purpose. This is why it takes courage to trust our intuition, and it also takes a lot of practice. But once you've bypassed the logical mind enough times, the last stage is to follow through with the decision that your intuition is guiding you to make. Once you start to discern certain patterns of thought, you will find that your conscious awareness starts to adjust itself as you begin to shape your intentions as to what kind of mental attitude you want to cultivate. This is also the threshold of where your free will lives. for you will always have the choice not to follow your inner guidance. However, as we have just mentioned, you will find that doing so will lead you to self-abandonment and self-betrayal. Now that you have a better framework to communicate with your inner guidance, you might be asking yourself, how does your inner guidance communicate with you? A great tool to help us navigate the outside world is language. Language allows us to share ideas and communicate concepts with others so we can connect and build culture. But words and gestures are not the only structured system of communication. When we speak of inner guidance, we often humanize our intuition and call it an inner voice, but intuition can speak through many channels. It usually comes through the energetic center that is most harmonized in the moment. We can in fact experience it as a quiet voice in our heads, but it also might communicate with us as a gut feeling, a deep resonance, or an inner knowingness. How do all of these communicate exactly? Well, that depends on each individual's experience. Here are 4 hints to help you get more clarity about how exactly your inner guidance is expressed through you. A gut feeling. An inner guidance that communicates through a gut feeling uses filler words such as whoa, to assess the level of energy you have to dedicate to a particular task. The more energy you have, the more expansive you'll feel, which translates into a hell yes response. If you feel repelled away from the task, your energy is contracting. You feel somewhat depleted, which signal a no thank you type of answer. Sometimes the gut feeling is not clear about whether we want to commit our energy or not, and in that case, you may want to wait to have a clearer signal and trust that it will come either through this channel or other language. Another way our intuition may communicate with us is through feeling our feelings. And as you can already imagine, this is a tall ask for many of us. Including myself, that were raised in cultures that vilify many of our feelings, which is why I'm passionate about teaching this stuff, and the reason why we're disconnected from our inner guidance. Feeling our feelings means riding the entirety of the emotional wave when making a decision, to feel all of the potential emotional possibilities available for us to experience. It is a waiting game of sorts, of holding space to feel all the highs and lows that come with acting on a decision until equanimity is reached. This is the calm that brings mental and emotional clarity to take the next step. An important thing to keep in mind with this type of guidance is that you will never be 100% certain about any decision you make. Since your body keeps score and remembers the imprint left by riding the lows of the vibe wave, aim more for 80% certainty around a yes or a no, and trust you make the right choice for you. And again, this is a waiting game, so resist the pressure of knowing what to do in the moment. This may come out as indecisiveness, but as you practice this form of communication, you'll realize that patience is key. Even a maybe is an answer from your intuition. It means you benefit from sleeping on it and give your emotions time to mellow or settle. This is important because you might possess a strong gut instinct too. So if after sleeping on it, your gut is still pulling you towards something, then go for it. The next form of communication our inner authority uses is through resonance. This is the language of fear. How do you know if it's excitement or anxiety? Fear is a state of being that gets activated when something valuable for us is under threat. This can be our identity, our self-concept, or our livelihood. Fear's communication is always subtle and instantaneous. It won't repeat itself once it gets triggered because your mind will begin deconstructing and analyzing your experience. So the key here is to learn to discern between excitement and anxiety. We're going into detail about how to process our feelings in the next chapter, but for now we suggest you pay attention to your breathing patterns when facing a decision. A yes decision comes in the form of excitement, which usually accelerates our breathing and propels us forward to take action, whereas the no is indicative of anxiety that can suspend or freeze our breathing, almost like we forget to breathe because we get sucked into our thoughts and are no longer present in our bodies. Finally, our inner guidance can also communicate with us through a deep inner knowing. Sometimes it's easier to be aware of our intuition's message when we see it reflected back to us. This will happen whenever we talk about something we want to do without filters. Speak things into existence is not a self-reflective process such as journaling, therapy, or coaching, but more of a free association, also used in automatic writing, using your voice as a compass for your heart. In other words, speak to yourself or with someone you trust to just listen and pay attention to the words you use and the actions you want to take. There's a deep inner knowing present in your words, but sometimes it requires a physical trigger, such as talking, to be felt. Notice that I said felt, not understood. Do not involve the mind in this process. There's no analyzing or problem solving in this equation. This is about being vulnerable and open to how you feel about a certain decision, so that when you're clear on the direction you want to take, you can go for it. These are the most common ways our inner guidance speaks to us. Your intuition may have a preferred way of coming through, but it can also combine other channels depending on how open you are to receiving. For example, sometimes, especially when I'm in my head, I need to speak things out, so you'll find me speaking to myself often. Other times I need to feel all the possible timelines and then wait to see the one I prefer with more clarity. How about you? How does your inner guidance speak to you? Is it more of a gut feeling or a deep resonance? Do you also need to feel all the feels before making a decision or talking things out to gain more clarity? Or does your intuition speak to you in a language that we didn't even mention? Leave us a comment in the comment section below. We're very curious to hear about your experience. And stick around for the next video to find out 3 powerful ways you can go about setting the stage to attune to your intuition and increase your self-trust.